It was the flashing red and blue lights that yanked me out of sleep. 3 in the morning, and my bedroom was glowing like a cheap nightclub. Groggy, I stumbled to the window, peeling back the curtain to see 2 cop cars parked outside my townhouse, their lights pulsing silently. For a split second, I thought I was dreaming until a sharp knock on my front door snapped me wide awake. This was no dream. This was real, and it was about to get wild. I threw on a t-shirt and sweatpants, my brain scrambling. Had someone broken into a neighbor's place? Was there an accident? Heart pounding, I opened the door to find 2 officers on my porch, hands resting near their belts, faces calm but serious. "Good evening, sir," the taller one said, his voice steady. "We got a 911 call about a suspicious vehicle blocking emergency access. Is it your work truck in the guest parking spot?" I blinked, my sleep-fogged mind struggling to catch up. My truck? The one I'd parked in the empty guest lot after my late shift at the hospital? "Yeah, that's mine," I said, confusion dripping from every word. "I got home about an hour ago. Is something wrong?" The officers exchanged a glancey look I'd later recognize as the universal, "here we go again" expression. Someone reported it as illegally parked, blocking emergency vehicles, the second officer said. They were pretty worked up about it. And just like that, I knew exactly who'd called. Evelyn Harper, or as the neighborhood whispered behind her back, Karen, the self-proclaimed queen of our Homeowners Association, whose townhouse had a perfect VYEW of the guest parking lot from her second-floor office. Let me back up. I'm a single dad, raising my 10-year-old daughter, Lily, in Pinewood Grove, a quiet, well-kept neighborhood I moved us to 6 months ago after my divorce. I work as a maintenance super VY-SOR at the regional hospital, pulling night shifts because they pay better, letting me afford this townhouse in a good school district. Pinewood seemed perfect, safe, peaceful, the kind of place where kids ride bikes and neighbors wave. What the real estate agent conveniently left out was Evelyn Harper, the HOA president for 7 years running, a woman who treated the rulebook like a holy scripture and herself as its high priestess. My first run-in with her came 3 days after MOVYing in, when she slapped a typed notice on my door declaring my welcome mat non-compliant and demanding I replace it with an approved models old, of course, at her cousin's overpriced home decor store. Since then, I'd gotten notices about everything. My grass was a 1/4 inch too tall, my trash bins lingered 10 minutes past regulation pickup time. Most folks just rolled over to avoid her wrath, but I made a habit of politely pushing back, HOA bylaws in hand, knowing she hated being challenged. The truck drama started 3 weeks ago. I usually park in my assigned spot, but I'd recently picked up overnight shifts, getting home around 2 a.m. My spot shares a wall with Mrs. Clara Thompson's bedroom, an 80-year-old widow who sweetly asked if I could park elsewhere at night because my diesel engine woke her up. No problem, I thought. There were a dozen guest parking spots 20 feet away, always empty, especially at that hour. It was a simple way to be a good neighbor. But to Evelyn, my act of kindness was like declaring war on her perfectly manicured kingdom. On day 3, I found a pre-printed HOA violation notice under my windshield wiper, resident using guest parking checked off and underlined in red ink 3 times. I ignored it, knowing the bylaws allowed residents to use guest spots for up to 72 hours. I always moved my truck back to my spot before my next shift anyway. But Evelyn wasn't done. The notes got nastier, final warning, then violation will be reported. Then came the photos. One morning, I caught her circling my truck, phone held high, snapping pictures like she was building a case for the Supreme Court. When she saw me watching, she yelled, "Actions have consequences, Mr. Bennett." I tried reasoning with her once, explaining about Mrs. Thompson and showing her the bylaws. Her response? As HOA president, I interpret the rules. Guest parking is for guests, not lazy residents. And that was that. Back to that night, as the officer stood on my porch, Evelyn came charging across the lawn in a floral bathrobe, curlers bouncing, clutching her phone in one hand like she was live streaming to the FBI, and while VYing a rolled-up copy of the HOA rules in the other like a scepter. "That's him," she shrieked, pointing at me. "He's breaking the rules." I stood there, dumbfounded, as she thrust her phone at the officers. I've documented weeks of violations. That commercial truck doesn't belong in our guest parking. The taller officer sighed. Ma'am, did you call 911 about this? Of course I did, she snapped, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. It's an emergency. What if an ambulance couldn't get through? What if there was a fire? The second officer gestured at the wide, empty street. Ma'am, there's plenty of room for emergency vehicles. This isn't an emergency. Evelyn's face turned beet red. It's against the rules. I'm the HOA president, and I decide what's ma'am. The first officer cut in, his voice sharp now. 911 is for real emergencies, medical crises, crimes, fires, not parking disputes. By now, the neighborhood was waking up. Lights flicked on, and a few brave souls stepped outside, drawn by the commotion. I spotted Mike from 2 doors down filming the whole thing, and Mrs. Thompson appeared on her porch in a nightgown, looking worried. Evelyn, though, was just getting warmed up. Do you know who I am? She demanded, her voice hitting a pitch that could have shattered glass. I've run this HOA for 7 years. I can have your badges for this disrespect. That's when things went from absurd to outright chaotic. The second officer pulled out a notepad. Ma'am, what's your full name? Evelyn Marie Harper, she declared, chin high, like she was announcing royalty. Ms. Harper, have you called 911 about HOA issues before? Before she could answer, Mike shouted, Oh, she has. 3 times last month over the Wilsons landscaping, and twice when the Lopez kids played basketball after 6. Another neighbor piped up. She called when my mom parked her sedan in my driveway, because it wasn't aesthetic enough. The officers exchanged that look again, the one that said, This is worse than we thought. Ms. Harper, the first officer said, his tone grave, misusing emergency VYCS is a serious offense. It pulls resources from actual emergencies and can cost lives. For the first time, Evelyn's smug facade cracked. Her eyes darted, and her voice softened. But I'm just enforcing the rules, she insisted. Someone has to keep standards. As the officers pressed her about her 911 call history, she got louder, more frantic, claiming the Lopez kids' basketball could have hit someone, the Wilsons' landscaping dust might have caused asthma. Then she made her fatal mistake. As the officer explained the penalties for 911 misuse, Evelyn lost it. This is ridiculous, she screamed, jabbing a finger inches from his chest. I pay your salaries. I demand you fine this man for his parking violation, or I'll call your super VY sore. The officer's face hardened. Ms. Harper, put your hands down and step back. But Evelyn doubled down, still recording, still while VYing her arms. I will not be silenced. This neighborhood was perfect before people like him moved in with their work trucks and disregard for property values. That was it. The officers shared a quick nod. Ms. Harper, turn around and place your hands behind your back. Her jaw dropped. What? You can't be serious. You're under arrest for misuse of emergency VYCS, disorderly conduct, and obstruction of justice, the officer said calmly, as his partner took her phone and guided her arms behind her. The look on Evelyn's face, pure, unfiltered shock, was something I'll never forget. As they led her to the patrol car, her shock morphed back into rage. This is an outrage. I was protecting our community. You'll all regret this when your property values tank. My lawyer will destroy you. The neighbors, now a small crowd, watched in stunned silence as the HOA tyrant was loaded into the back of a cop car at 3 a.m., bathrobe flapping, curlers and all. The first officer turned to me as the cruiser pulled away. Sir, we're sorry for the disturbance. Your truck is legally parked, and you've done nothing wrong. Could you come to the station tomorrow to give a statement about this and any prior run-ins with Ms. Harper? I nodded, still processing the insanity. Of course, officer. Thank you. As the neighbors dispersed, many stopped to pat my shoulder or whisper their disbelief. Mike grinned, holding up his phone. Got all on VY Deo, man. Next HOA meeting's gonna be lit. Mrs. Thompson took my hand, her voice soft. Thank you for being so kind about the parking, dear. Not many would care. I smiled, reassuring her it was no trouble, but inside I was buzzing. I went back inside, knowing I'd barely sleep before my station VY sit and shift. The next day, the fallout hit fast. At the station, I learned Evelyn faced charges for misuse of emergency services, disorderly conduct, and obstruction. Records showed she called 911 17 times in the past year, only 2 for real emergencies. The prosecutor offered a deal: a law $5,000 fine, 100 hours of community service, and a course on proper 911 use. If she complied, the charges would be reduced, but she'd be barred from the HOA board for 5 years. Word was, when Evelyn heard the terms, she called it highway robbery and demanded to see whoever runs this kangaroo court. The judge wasn't amused. Warning her jail time was the alternative. She took the deal, grudgingly. Pinewood Grove buzzed with the news. That night, as I parked in the guest spot again, I found a note under my wiper. My stomach sank, expecting another violation notice. Instead, it was a thank you card signed by a dozen neighbors with Mrs. Thompson's shaky handwriting front and center. For the first time since moving in, I felt like Pinewood might actually be home. But here's where it gets juicy, folks. Was Evelyn Harper a tyrant who got what she deserved? Or was she a misguided woman trying to protect her neighborhood? Should the HOA system be scrapped altogether, letting neighbors live without someone like her breathing down their necks? Or do we need rules to keep things civil, even if they're enforced by someone with a power trip? And what about those 911 calls? Should she have faced jail time to really learn her lesson? Or was the fine and community service enough? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Smash that like button if your team, park where you want. And subscribe for more stories that'll have you picking a side.